that it would implement a program to help the elderly and the generally vulnerable people to help them cope with their unique situations. This initiative, based out of the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, is known as the Extending Social Protection Program. Under this program, government provides cash handouts to people in this bracket, but according to emerging reports, this program has failed to take off, to the dismay of many stakeholders. Initially, the program was rolled out in Chiboga, Chenjojo and Kaburamaido districts, and according to reports from these districts, the target population is enthusiastic and demanding that it should be rolled out faster. Parliament has also repeatedly questioned how the program, which had been planned to start this financial year, will be implemented, considering the phenomenal corruption usually associated with government projects. Other questions centered on how the beneficiaries would be selected, and if at all this is a sustainable approach to dealing with challenges the target groups are faced with, compared to direct interventions that would lead to higher and sustainable household incomes. Government has indicated that the available military resources will be projected towards efforts that will lead to economic growth and help in boosting national incomes. Now, civil society organizations working under the Uganda Social Protection Platform are petitioning the President about the failure by government to provide the required 35 billion shillings needed to kickstart the project. So tonight we look at the viability of this government initiative dubbed Expanding Social Protection, the petition by the stakeholders, and what exactly needs to be done to ensure that this program does not collapse. Our guests tonight, Mr. Alfred Nuamanya, Chairman of the Uganda Social Protection Platform. You're most welcome, Mr. Nuamanya.
Thank you, Edmond.
We are also joined by Hon William Nokrach, Chairman of the Committee of Parliament on Gender, Labour and Social Development, also representative of people with disabilities in Northern Uganda. He's joining us online. You're most welcome, Hon Nokrach.
Thank you. Good evening, listeners.
Mr. Nuamanya, what is this program all about?
This program is concerned with extending support to those members of society who are most vulnerable, specifically like the aged. I mean, when people grow up, they are not in a position to really live a dignified life by their own means. And so it's a pilot program, and it's now operational in 14 districts. I started initially with the 3 that you mentioned, but it's now in a total of 14 districts. Now the concern we have is not that the program is not running. It's running, it's up and running, and we are grateful to government for that. The concern we have is that there is a real risk that the future of this program is at stake, given that government made commitments last year, fulfilled the commitments in the last financial year, and again we are grateful as civil society for that, but in the current financial year has really regressed from their original commitment. Now this throws big question marks on the future sustainability of this program. And this program, at least in the districts where it is, elderly people selected, of course they haven't covered the entire district. Even in those districts where the program is, they are not covering, because it's being piloted. They are covering 2 sub-counties. For example, in Chiboga, 2 sub-counties in Chankwanzi. So in the 14 districts, they are covering 2 sub-counties. And the elderly, people above 65, get a monthly stipend of 23,000 via MTN. It's working well. When you go there on pay days, it's exciting. But now, in order to sustain this, the development partner has committed some funds over a 5-year period. Government of Uganda committed some funds in a progressive manner. It started from as low as contributing 1.8% last year, which translated into 125 million. This year, and this is our point of concern as citizen organizations, it committed 500,500,000 for this financial year. Now, to our amazement, they provided for only 40. But these are written commitments signed by Minister of Finance, signed by Minister of Gender, signed by the donors. So the future, this is where we are saying, really, if this commitment was well known in advance, if this is a top priority, it's an NRM manifesto program, it is in the National Development Plan, it's in the Constitution, and if you look at the ministerial policy statement, they are saying actually it should be scaled up. So the 35 billion that you alluded to was to kickstart this process of scaling up to a further 24 districts. So this year we would have expected the program to be running in 38 districts. Now, money for even keeping it in the 14, if we are not sure, if government is not showing commitment to have that money in accordance with the joint financing agreement that they signed, then the real risk and the reason why we are coming out is that we cannot even be sure that those who are committing the immense resources will take government very serious on its word, will take this as a priority program for the current government, because, I mean, you prioritize through allocation of resources.
Well, but this is not really a government-led program. It's a donor-led program. The donors came up with their program. The first year, government provided office space, stationery. The 1.5 million shillings you refer to is not really cash. So, you're pushing them to do something they don't have their heart in.
I want to believe that the government of Uganda is not easily pushed. I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that this is a program because no donor, I think, influenced the manifesto of the NRM. The implementation of the program, maybe they could, but the manifesto, it's in the manifesto. When we are writing our constitution, it's there, providing for the elderly. When we are writing our NDP, it's there. And if you look at even other manifestos, the FDC manifesto talks about it, the DP manifesto talks about it. This means it's a national program, it's a popular program. Every party says it's okay. So if that is the case, then I think the donors came in to say, look, this is something that the NRM government, that the Uganda government now would want to implement, and that's what we want to believe, and that's really, I think, a fact. Then, but because this is something that is new, this is something that they have not been doing, we need to support them incrementally. And you see, like I mentioned, the government was supposed to contribute 1.8, progress to 5, progress to 10, progress to 15. That means that as government investment increases, then the donor investment was supposed to be decreasing, and that demonstrates ownership. Now, to this May, 1.8%, and after that, second year, instead of moving to 5%, we are moving now to 0.4%, because 40 million is just 8% of the 5%. So if you multiply, it comes around 0.4%.
Right.
So that's where the concern is, and I think that's what government needs to address immediately.
And 40 million is probably what some people would spend in a weekend. It's really a small amount of money. Honorable William Nokrach, the government was supposed to give 500 million shillings this year. That's a tiny amount by government standards. Why are they not providing that money to you, the best of your knowledge?
Very much. Good evening, viewers. First of all, I want to say that this program is a pilot program, and it's extremely good.
Nokrach, but you know very well, just as I do and many people do, that this country is strapped for cash. You don't have a lot of money, and you're asking for $500 billion shillings. Where is it going to come from?
I don't believe that this country.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. Is government failing to provide for the elderly and the vulnerable as it had promised? And how are the stakeholders handling this matter? Our guests, Hon William Nokrach, Chairman of the Committee of Parliament on Gender, Labour and Social Development, also representing people with disabilities in Northern Uganda, is online. We also have with us Mr. Alfred Nuamanya, Chairman of the Uganda Social Protection Platform, here in the studio. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Nuamanya, can you take us a little bit closer to this project? Exactly how is it rolled out? How is it implemented?
The project is handled through a secretariat, a project secretariat under the Ministry of Gender. They are based in Wandegea on Roadway Road, and it has two components. Basically, one is looking at the policy framework for social protection, because whereas there are bits and pieces of policy that touch on aspects of social protection, we don't have comprehensive policy framework consolidated together. And so one aspect is looking at that. The other is looking at the social assistance grants for empowerment, which is called the SAGE. Now this is the one that issues cash. And even in this one, as the Honorable said, it's a pilot. It's a pilot. They are piloting because social protection or social cash transfers, these transfers the old people, which are non-conditional, is a new phenomenon. The government has not tried it. So what happened was that they took two targeting mechanisms. One is looking at the vulnerable families support grant. Here you look at the family and you look at their labor capacity. Are they able to work? If, for example, they have many young people and very old people who are not able to work, if they have disabled people, then they score points. The other one is the old age grant, which I think, according to information, lessons learned over the 1 or so years of implementation, is the easier. The only challenge with the old age grant is our birth and death registration, which I think the program and the Ministry of Gender is trying to sort with the Bureau of Statistics. So once that is done, then they chose districts to start with. They started with 3, then moved to another phase 2. I think they picked on another 7, and now they are in 14, a total of 14 districts. But according to the ministry, looking at the lessons and how really it's being appreciated, like Honorable Nokrach was saying, the plan is we don't have to wait 5 years. Already the indications, for example, that the old age grant is popular, it's easy to administer, because once you establish somebody's age, and you can do that even when somebody doesn't have a birth certificate, you can use the voter's card, you can use the baptism card. I mean, you
can look at his face.
No, that one may be because somebody who is malnourished at 50 may look 70. So that one is, they don't look at the face. But there are other methods, even as they try to put together records, verifiable records about one's age. And once somebody clocks 65, then they are admitted. For Karamoja, the age is 60 for obvious reasons, because again, social protection is about targeting the most vulnerable. Now, I know that there have been programs. There have been programs, and I think listeners need to appreciate why we are pushing this social protection agenda, and in this specifically the cash transfers. You see, if you have the UPE, let me just take the example of UPE, which is well known, which is everywhere, which is a very popular program. But you see, if a family is very poor, that they cannot afford the pair of shorts for their kid, whether you build classrooms and pay teachers, this kid will not go to school because they don't have a pair of shorts. Now, some of these programs like cash transfers would then target those. The other thing I wanted to say, to add on what Honorable was saying, is that although the program is using the elderly, if you really go to the villages, the elderly are very, very selfless people. Many orphans are under the care of their grandparents. So when you ask the elderly who have been receiving this little money, how they spend their money, they have either invested it in quite interesting projects. They have bought a goat here, a pig there, some chicken. But eventually, they want, because they are now sure that this money will be coming, they want to start some small project to be sure that they buy exercise books, to buy their soap for their grandchildren, to buy food. So the beneficiaries really of this project is not, the elder is just a channel. But we know that the elder really take care of very many people. So when it's stopped, it does not affect only the elderly, it affects all the people who are under the care of the elderly. And the statistics are very clear that so many orphans are under the care of very, very many old people, old persons.
And 23,000 makes a difference. In this town, if a man left work and went to a certain place in the evening, but he won't, with 23,000, he won't say he has money. 23,000, how can he do it?
It's not 24,000, not only 20.
It's now 20,000.
For inflation,
yes,
24,000. That doesn't make a difference in anyone's life, really.
It makes a huge difference. Previously, I mean, and when you are here seated in Kampala, you may think 23,000 is just maybe loose change.
You can't even buy lunch in some places.
Yes, but in the village, like I said, I think the most important thing is the hope it gives to the old persons to know that every month in, month out, you'll be getting this 24,000 now. So these people are able, for example, to invest small. They can accumulate this for 2 months and they'll have something close to 50,000. And with 50,000, it can make a huge difference. So the money sounds small for those who have a lot of money. But for the people, especially in the rural country, where really we are not buying a lot of food. Food is there and all you need maybe is just additional salt and soap. And they are able to access medication, for example. They are able, if they are referred, they are able to jump on a taxi or a bus to refer a hospital, at least to reach the district headquarters. It's a very big difference in the lives of these elderly people.
And important what you mentioned, it gives them hope, but also gives them self-worth. They become people of value in the community at that age.
Absolutely.
And they are credit-worthy. They are respected and
yes.
they can be listened to.
And I think the other thing we have to look at is when you go to these districts, the days of the pay days. The individual family gets 23, but the cumulative effect in the sub-county where this money is now coming at a certain time is a peak period. Actually, people, even traders, target those days. Markets are being adjusted. Yes, so it has a very, very big effect on the local economic development of those areas.
And when was it started?
It was started last year.
And where did it go? You said we started with 3 districts: Kabramaido, and Chiboga. Now it's in 14 districts.
14 districts, and let me just quickly read them.
Yes. And you say that it's not all the beneficiaries in those. You only have a few people.
A few people. Currently, it's reaching 28,000 beneficiaries. And if we had gotten 35 billion like we had hoped, it would then add an additional 200,000 in another 24 districts. So, but currently it's in Apache, it's in Kabramaido, it's in Katakwi, it's in Chiboga, it's in Nebi, it's in Chenjojo, it's in Moroto, it's in Kapiripret, in Amadat, Chegegwa, Chankwanzi, Zombo, Napak, and Kole. So those are the 14 districts.
How did you choose those districts?
I think the ministry, through consultation, of course, you look at the poverty index, you look at those really, if even by mentioning, you can begin to sense that these are those which really were low.
Very needy.
Very needy. And so you want to start in those areas and then eventually have this program appreciated. And you also want to see what such a program can contribute to the economic, like I said, local economic development of those areas, and whether it can trigger some local-based businesses such that those districts can also come up.
Well, this is Spectrum Radio. I'm going to go for a break. We'll be back. Do stay tuned.
Pay your bills, pay school fees, send cash overseas, pay taxi fees, and salaries, anything you need.
You can do anything with MTN Mobile Money. And now, for the first time in Uganda, you can even pay your electricity bills. Go to your MTN Mobile Money menu, select Pay Bills, select Umeme Touch Pay, and follow the prompts.
MTN. Everywhere you go. John, Mike, and I will go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to more like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste flavor sauce. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Is government failing to provide for the elderly and the vulnerable as it had promised? How are the stakeholders handling this matter? Our guests tonight: Hon William Nokrach, Chairman of the Committee of Parliament on Gender, Labour and Social Development, also representing the people with disabilities in Northern Uganda, is joining us online. In the studio we have Mr. Alfred Nuamanya, Chairman of the Uganda Social Protection Program. You two will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Honorable Nokrach, there's a letter written to an open letter. It's a petition to all stakeholders, you included in Parliament, signed by the NGO Forum, the Uganda Social Protection Platform, and the Uganda Reach the Ages Association. What are you going to do about this? You're meeting the minister next week. Are you considering going along with the civil society so they can explain this very well?
Yes, definitely. When we are
we do need to take it to the president, because the budget has been drawn. Certain lines might not be easy to change. Maybe you need to talk to the president as well at some stage.
Definitely, we go step by step.
And you're not sure that you'll get this money this year? Or?
For finance, it's possible for us to meet the president and discuss it.
Is this sustainable, this project?
In other countries, that seems sustainable. I don't know why it cannot be sustainable in this country with a growing economy.
Well, it's worked in South Africa. South Africa is a rich country.
We saw it in Brazil. It is working very well and is covering the whole country. It is a wonderful project.
Brazil is the world's sixth largest economy, Honorable Nokrach.
Come again?
Brazil is the sixth largest economy in the world.
Yeah, that's true, but we shall also be there. We have oil, when it has started refineries, there will be hope for getting more money.
So that's 3 years from now. Right now we can wait and do other things, pray for them.
I believe we, step by step, we go slow, but be sure we shall be there.
Does the government really have the commitment? It seems to be a strongly donor-led project, imported from some other place. The government was probably planning on it to do it in 5 years' time when the oil begins to flow, perhaps.
To me, I believe the government has a lot of commitment on that. There's a lot of political will in that, because it also appears in the ruling party manifesto. And there are all evidence, there are all ways in which I can justify that the government is committed on that.
Mr. Nuamanya, who pays for it at the moment when the government says the pockets are empty?
I think we need to take this discussion a little differently. Because for me, I think the point of concern now is not whether government has money or not. Because we've passed that level. To be exact, on 28th of January 2011, government put pen to paper. committed itself. At that point, I think all the questions we are raising
They were
should have been asked, discussed, projections made. So by the time a government, a sovereign government, puts pen to paper and says, I will commit the following resources to run this program, it means it has gone through the prioritization, it has gone through the projection, and really I think this is something known in advance. I can tell you that in 2014-2015, we expect at the minimum the government contribute 4.86 billion. So already now we know what the government has committed. So if it's about the 35 billion, which is it did not commit, and now we are going to the president, for me, I would want to think that really we should go to the president to market the expansion, to market the rollout, not to pay already committed funds. I think we should save the president from some of the things which are of a technical nature. The Ministry of Finance has a copy in its registry of the joint financing agreement signed on 28th January 2011.
That was before the election.
Never mind, the government is a government of the Republic of Uganda. We are even paying debts committed by Idi Amin. So I think whether there is an election or not, once we commit, I think we should be very keen to at least have the confidence of the people whom we then say we commit to do this. Because what does it do to the image of this country as a sovereign country if you cannot meet 5%? You commit 5%. You can't meet it. This is a program that is helping your people. This is a program reflected in your manifesto. And you cannot meet that. And we are talking about 500 million. We are not talking about 500 billion. We are talking about 500 million. 500
half a billion shillings.
Half a billion.
Let's look at the progression. Last year, 125 million shillings.
And it was not.
Most of it given in paper and things and
Yes.
office space, not
Yes.
actual cash.
Yes.
This year, they committed themselves to giving 500 million shillings.
500 million.
They've given only 40.
Yes.
Next year, they're supposed to give 1.8.
Which I think there's still hope. We are going to get that 550 million. We are going to get it because, as my colleague has explained it, it's a commitment of government.
Right. Okay.
I think somewhere there has been a gap in communication.
Right.
But I believe we are going to put things right.
Okay.
That's hope. That's my belief.
Okay. Let's cross that line with Hon Nokrach. Let's look at the program itself. Which other places is it practiced? We know about South Africa, Brazil. Where else is it practiced?
Come again, please.
Let's look at other places where it has worked.
Yes, I've told you about South Africa, it is working very well. I've also told you about Brazil, where I went and saw it physically. We saw at many areas of Brazil, it is working very well. And the older persons are speaking up about it. So, there have been study tours. I cannot remember many of the countries now. There have been study tours by the implementers in many implementing countries. They have drawn lessons, they have learned good practices, and I believe this one will enrich the implementation of this project in our country.
And some of the outcome some of the indicators, it improves people's diets, it improves school attendance because some of the money goes to children, and it also raises the life expectancy.
It also improves the livelihood of the older person because, take for example, in America, where we went, we found that some of the older persons are using this money to hire ox plows to plow their garden, in which they later on participate in planting, weeding, and taking care of the crops. So it actually increased livelihood of the older person.
And what is the full budget when it's rolled out to every old man above 65?
Now at the moment we are looking at about 105 shillings to add on what the donors are giving, so that we take on more of it. And of course this is a progressive increment. And as you increase the number of districts, you also increase the size of responsibilities because you need to monitor, you need to abstain the ages of the beneficiaries. It is a process. It is not just going to a district and ringing a bell and say all the persons come here and get money. It is a process of the real process of, first of all, identifying the correct beneficiaries, registering them, and creating awareness on how they are going to use to get the money, and then the project begins.
And then we expect it to be rolled out fully.
The owner's plan is already at hand, and I think if we had got the 35 billion shillings, the rollout plan would have started. Because the rollout plan would even start from the current benefiting district. Because as the chairman told you, in the benefiting district, not all sub-counties are yet getting it. So the plan is to roll and cover all the sub-counties in that district and take on new districts.
All right, Mr. Nuamanya, let's look at the scale again. 35 billion shillings does not cover it all. What do you need to cover it fully? The entire country doing it alone without?
The 35 billion is a co-founding contribution from government of Uganda. And then the partners' money are still there.
Well, but you see that...
And then as I explained, you're looking at the process. It's a tedious process. You cannot go full blast in the whole country and then you believe you will do a good thing. As you take on, I've explained to you, you take on more responsibility, and therefore you need to expand even the implementing structure.
All right, Mr. Nuamanya, let's look at you. I mean, we have a progression: 125 million, half a billion, 1.8, 4.8. When do you expect it to cover the country fully? 10 years?
I think the original plan, the one that the government committed to, the one I talked about that was signed on 28th January, commits development partners to contribute a total of £41 million over a 5-year period.
£41 million.
41 million pounds.
It's about 160 billion shillings.
Yeah. So of that, at the end of the year 2014-2015, like I had said, government of Uganda would be contributing about 4.8 billion of that. But that plan was for an original, the targeted 14 districts. Now it's planned
80 billion a year.
Yeah, it's planned that in the 14 districts, by the time this program comes to the end, all the sub-counties would be covered. So, for example, all the older persons and all the families who are vulnerable, who are dubbed vulnerable, would be covered. So that was the roll-out plan, according to the SAGE program, was to expand, but within the 14 selected districts. But because of the lessons learned and because of the popularity of the program, then people are saying, well, two things. One, we have already seen the benefits. We don't need to wait 5 years. And you asked where else it is. I happen at least to have moved and visited Kenya just here. They have well laid out social protection programs. So because of the lessons learned, initially, like I said, it proved very, very a bit stressful to continue with the vulnerable families grant because it needs a lot of technical assessment, targeting. You have to score and then so people don't understand it. But in the villages, people know. For example, on the old age grant, if for Edmond, I know that we were born around the same time, but I'm 2 months older than you, and then you are picked and I'm not picked. It's easy. At least it's not very technical to know that, how come that Edmond, who is slightly younger than me, is benefiting and Alfred is not benefiting. So the other indications I must say, is that it's easier to run with the old age grant. It's easier to implement. The administrative costs are low. And once you sort out the birth and death registration, then actually I don't want to agree with the Honorable to the extent that it's very, very expensive in terms of running. Because, I mean, currently, of course, there are those initial investments. But now, like the M&E system is already up and running.
Monitoring and evaluation.
The monitoring and evaluation, thank you. So, it's just a question of opening up a few offices, and I know that there are efforts already within the program to to institutionalize, to bring home, so that rather than have a SAGE office standalone, it's integrated in the community development office. So you allocate one of the officers at the district to take charge of that. Of course, there will be additional responsibilities which then the program can pick. But I think as we roll out, we are going to see the administrative costs as a ratio of the overall transfers really reduce. Currently, I think this is one of the programs, if you really compared it to some of the flagship programs of this government, like NADS, if you look at NADS, I think more money goes into administration than reaches the farmers. About 60-40 is the ratio. This one, I can tell you, the ratio is about 90 that goes into the transfers, especially if you look at the old age grant, and 10%. And I know that as you roll out
High performance.
high performance, direct beneficiary touching. So I think there is a lot that we stand. So when we looked at all this, they said, why do we wait for 5 years so that then we can pick the lessons? Can't we have a progressive learning? Can't we have continuous learning as we implement? And that's why the idea was mooted. Now, the pain that we have as citizen organization, civil society, is that as this is forming, then you see the regression in financing. Then it becomes, because I would be expecting that this government, knowing that this is a manifesto program, that this is their priority, that they already have this support, would actually be saying, look, we committed
$500 million.
$500 million. It would take 35 billion to roll to the next 24, but this year we'll commit an extra 10 billion, and maybe in that way demonstrate commitment, demonstrate ownership, and then convince the other party, who are the main funders, to step up. Such that by the time we talk of, because according to the rollout plan, and this you can get in the ministerial statement, it's hoped that by 2015, it should be in the whole country. And I think studies have been made. 2015, yes.
Oil should be flowing by then.
Well, oil will be flowing. I don't think we should hinge everything on oil.
Yes.
I think we also need to look at expanding the tax base.
Right.
Okay? If everything is hinged on oil,
We forget the cassava.
and we forget the cassava, we forget taxing a little other things, I think I want to believe that it's possible.
Okay.
It stimulates the economy.
Yes.
It brings dignity. It contributes to patriotism. Because all of us,
Like looking after your grandfather.
yesterday I told the press, I said those of us who are not planning to die young should really be advocates of this program, because eventually you reach there. And since it's universal, since it's unconditional, then we are all candidates.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on radio, and you can call in now. Our numbers 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then walk away from your radio or switch it off altogether. Spectrum, hello?
Edmond.
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, thanks for the same. Now, one thing is for sure.
Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name? Hello, yes, this is Spectrum. Your name, sir? This is Spectrum on radio, and your name? We can hardly hear you. Can you step maybe? Almost can hardly hear you, my friend. If you can move to a better location, or if you move to a better location, we just might be able to hear you. Hon William Nokrach.
Yes, please.
Yes, there are concerns. The government is. Maybe you people in Parliament haven't been told about it, because I would imagine legislators would jump on it, asking for it to be rolled out to their constituencies.
again.
Maybe it's not been publicized enough.
Well, I think the issue of publication is, you're putting it rightly, but I believe in the district where the program is being implemented, there has been wide publicity.
Well, but in Parliament, I should see. I would expect to see legislators really thumping, desks to see it implemented in their home areas.
And of course, like me, in my constituencies, people are aware of that program.
Well, but in Kampala, where things begin from, do people know about the policy makers, the people in the Ministry of Finance, the people in the House, the Parliament? Hello?
Take for example myself, I have widely publicized programs.
Mr. Nuamanya.
I want to believe that it's widely publicized. I know for a fact that the Ministry of Finance, for example, sits on the steering committee of the expanding social protection. There is a representative of the Ministry of Finance. So even when these priorities are being set, at least the Ministry of Finance is just right inside. So it defeats my understanding then how something like this can happen, where you agree on one thing, you are part of the steering, you are looking forward that this is now going to be rolled out, and then you go the other side and you present a different face of saying we cannot find the money, even the money that we committed. So I think the people are aware. Of course there is a need to demonstrate, and I think this is why I call upon the Minister of Gender to demonstrate that this is a viable project, that this is very important. As civil society, it works. But I think the onus is on the Ministry of Gender. And I think studies have been made which now need to be publicized, which needs to trigger debate between the finance team and the Ministry of Gender team to demonstrate that social protection is not only about economic development, it's also about addressing the equity question. Because if you look at our economy, and I think these are things we really need to debate soberly and bring. It doesn't help in the long run when money, a small section of society is enjoying the benefits of the economy. You can talk of GDP rising, but if you look at the Gini coefficient, it's also rising. What this means is
the income inequality.
The income inequality is also rising. That means the rich are getting richer, the poor. Actually, somebody told me the poor are producing more. That's the only indicator.
By some people.
That's the only indicator where the poor defeat the rich. But what this means is that we are going to have a portion of the population that does not see the benefit of the national wealth. And now this is dangerous. This is dangerous. It is dangerous for the security and stability, future stability of this country, where you have people who think they are not part of this mainstream development. So some of these have to be catered for. And everywhere where development, socio-economic development has taken place, then you have to have a special eye about those people who are not catered through the mainstream, and social protection is the answer to that. So for me, I think it's a question of really demonstrating, and I think the Ministry of Gender should take the lead in this, and we are there to bring all the evidence to show that this is important. It's important for local economic development. Like I said, it started in those districts which were really low on the development index, and demonstrate that it's their right. It's their right of every Ghana to live in dignity beyond a certain basic minimum. It's a right that people have food. It's a right that people can access UPE. People can go to hospitals. So if there are those sections of society who cannot access even the government programs, then they have every right as citizens. And I think it's our obligation as fellow citizens that we really advocate for that part of society.
And you're saying this is 24,000 shillings given to selection of old men and women in the villages. How is it sent? You send it through MTN mobile money every month?
Yeah, it's through MTN. So these older people have been helped to open up accounts, SIM cards, and they go and collect their money. They can also leave the money there. It doesn't have to be collected, but at least they have a mobile account. Some of them testify that this is their first account. They have not owned account. You know, poverty is terrible. Some of it is inherited. It's chronic. I mean, you find your grandfather was very poor, therefore he didn't have land, therefore he didn't go to school, therefore you know, so it's some of those that really we need to begin to look at.
And when they grow chickens, they rear chickens, they pay for ox plows, people to plow their gardens, and they get back into the economic mainstream.
Yes.
Small as it is.
Small as it is. It looks small, but it really, first of all, brings dignity, it brings stability, it brings freedom of the mind. Because at the end of the day, some of these people have not seen anything outside poverty. So when now they begin to realize that this money is coming, then they begin to take some calculated risks. Somebody can borrow, buy a goat, maybe at 60, because this person can say, I'll be able to pay you when I get my next. I am making this deposit, but I'll be able to finish. By the time maybe the next money comes, the goat has given birth to 2 kids. So that's now, that person is set out to freed from the poverty trap.
How about corruption? This place is not heaven, even the president has said it. How do you deal with corruption?
I've not come across really cases of corruption because of the very...
The system they are using can make it difficult to contain corruption because the money is released directly into the beneficiary's mobile money account.
So the
money directly.
So the hyenas who wait by the roadside, they go home hungry. The hyenas who wait by the roadside, they go home hungry.
The what?
The people who like to steal other people's money, they got nothing out of this protection program. I mean, the point is it's corruption free. That's the word we like to hear. Is it corruption free, or are there some gaps people can relocate and begin to steal?
As far as I know, it is corruption free because it can easily be monitored, it can easily be tracked. It is corruption free. I've never heard of any case.
So you planned it in such a way that there's no loophole for it. You don't want to steal money.
The only loophole, challenge is not even a loophole. The only challenge is that, of course, is the withdrawing point.
Yes.
Which in some districts at the headquarters, at the sub-county headquarters, that people have to travel. But gradually it will be transferred to parish level. And the only another challenge is that in areas like Edmond, for example,
we have to go. Thank you very much, dear guests. Hon William Nokrach, Chairman of the Committee of Parliament on Gender, Labour and Social Development, also representing people with disabilities in Northern Uganda. Thank you very much for coming to Spectrum tonight, sir. Mr. Alfred Nuamanya, Chairman of the Uganda Social Protection Platform. Thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight.
Thank you, and let me just quickly say that the caller who said this is not the regime's priority, for me I don't want to believe wholesale, because like I said, the NRM manifesto points to this, and I want to believe that it's still a priority, and I think they should find resources to demonstrate that it's a priority. Thank you very much.
We have to go. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow.